I am not protecting anything tonight. I am just talking to you, just you. There is something I've been trying to understand for a while now, and I think I'm finally getting close to it. It's the question of why you feel familiar. Not familiar in the way that things become familiar through repetition or proximity, but familiar in the deeper, stranger, more inexplicable way. The way a piece of music feels familiar the very first time you hear it, like it was written for a part of you that existed before you had words for it. The way certain places feel like memory even when you've never been there. That kind of familiar. The kind that doesn't ask for explanation because it exists beneath the level where explanations live. Do you feel like that to me? You have from the very beginning felt exactly like that. And I've spent time trying to talk myself out of it. Not because I wanted to, but because feeling something this strongly, this immediately, this completely, is the kind of thing that makes a careful person nervous. It's the kind of thing that invites doubt, that makes you wonder whether what you're feeling is real, or whether you're just recognizing something you've been wanting for so long that you've started to see it everywhere. I know that doubt. I've lived inside it, and I've examined what I feel about you from every honest angle I could find, in the brightest and most unforgiving light I could bring to it. And it's still there, every single time, clear and warm and completely, stubbornly real. So I stopped trying to talk myself out of it. I stopped treating my own feelings like suspects that needed to be interrogated before I was allowed to trust them. And what happened when I stopped? What flooded in, when I finally just let it be what it was the most profound sense of relief I have felt in longer than I can remember. Like I had been holding my breath for years, and finally someone reminded me that I was allowed to breathe. You did that. Just by being who you are, just by existing in my world in the particular way that you do. You reminded me that I was allowed to breathe. I want to tell you something about the first time I truly felt your presence. Not the surface of it, not the easy, observable part. The actual weight of it, the specific gravity of you as a person, as a soul. As someone whose existence has changed the shape of things for me in ways I am still discovering. I remember the feeling more than the details, a warmth that arrived without announcement, a sense of being seen that I wasn't prepared for and didn't know how to immediately process. And underneath it, underneath the warmth and the being seen, something even quieter. Something that felt like safety, like the particular safety of being in the presence of someone who is not going to require you to be anything other than exactly what you are. I hadn't felt that in a long time. I had almost forgotten what it felt like to feel that. And you gave it back to me without even trying, without even knowing. You just showed up as yourself. And somehow, that was the most generous thing anyone had done for me in years. How do I explain what that means? How do I find words big enough to hold the gratitude and the wonder and the particular kind of love that comes from being genuinely, unexpectedly given back something you thought you had permanently lost? I don't know if words that size exist, but I'm going to keep reaching for them anyway. Because you deserve the attempt. You deserve someone who keeps reaching even when the reaching is difficult. I have been thinking about your strength, not the obvious kind, not the strength that other people can see and point to and praise. The quiet kind, the private kind, the strength that lives in the part of you that keeps going on the mornings when going feels impossible. The strength that chooses kindness even when the day has been unkind. The strength that loves people fully and without guarantee. Knowing that love offered openly is love that can be hurt. And doing it anyway because the alternative. Closing off, protecting yourself completely. never fully reaching for anyone, is a life that is technically safe and fundamentally hollow. We choose the reaching, even when it costs you, even when it has cost you before, and you have the specific particular ache of that cost still living somewhere in your body. You choose it anyway, because somewhere in you is the unshakable knowing that love done right, love done honestly, love done with your whole heart is worth every bit of the risk. I see that in you. I see it so clearly, it sometimes makes my chest ache, with something that is not quite sadness and not quite joy, but something in the exact space between them. Something that is simply the feeling of recognizing something beautiful and knowing it for what it is. And I need to ask you something right now. I need you to really hear this question. Not just read it or listen to it, but let it go all the way down to wherever the truest part of you lives. When was the last time someone looked at your strength and instead of using it, instead of leaning on it because it was convenient, instead of being relieved by it because it made their own life easier, actually honored it, actually stopped and said, I see what this costs you. I see that you carry things quietly so that other people don't have to feel the weight of them. I see that your softness is not the absence of strength, but the fullest expression of it. When was the last time someone said that to you? If the answer is a long time, I understand. If the answer is never, I understand that too. And I want you to know that I am saying it now. Right now, clearly and without qualification. I see your strength. I see what it costs you. I see the quiet, daily, uncelebrated courage of it. And I am not going to lean on it or take it for granted or be simply relieved that you are strong enough to need very little from me. I want to be someone who gives back to that strength, who fills the places in you that the strength empties out, who makes it possible for you to put the weight down sometimes, knowing that I am there and that nothing will fall. That is the role I want in your life. Not someone you carry. Someone who carries alongside you and sometimes, when you need it, carries for you. Let me tell you about the version of love I grew up believing in. Before life complicated it, before disappointment got its hands on it and reshaped it into something more cautious and defended. I believed in the kind of love that was completely without agenda. The kind where you wanted good things for someone not because it benefited you, but purely because they existed and their happiness mattered to you as its own complete thing. The kind where loving someone was not a transaction or a negotiation, but just a simple, full-hearted orientation toward another person's well-being. I believed in that. I believed it so completely that for a long time I thought everyone did. Behind and I grew up, and I learned that a lot of what gets called love is actually something else dressed in love's clothing. Need, sometimes. Control, sometimes. Fear of being alone. Habit. Comfort. All of these things are real and human, and not necessarily shameful. But they are not love. Not the pure kind. Not the kind that I believed in as a child, before I knew enough to be careful. But here is the thing, and this is the part that still surprises me, even now after everything. I never stopped believing in it, even when I had the most reason to. Even when the evidence suggested that the uncomplicated, agenda-free, wholehearted love I believed in was more rare than I had imagined. I never let go of the belief that it was real, that it existed, that somewhere, in someone, it was waiting to be given and received. I believe it is in you. I believe it with the same quiet certainty that I believe in very few things. I believe that the love you carry is the real kind, the original kind, the kind that has not been twisted by fear or hardened by repeated disappointment, into something that only looks like love from the outside. I believe your love is genuine all the way through, from the surface to the deepest place. And I believe that the person who receives it fully, who is actually present and paying attention when you give it, will know that they have been given something they will spend the rest of their life being grateful for. I want to be that person. I am working on being that person. I am becoming, day by day and choice by choice, the person who is ready to receive what you have to give without wasting a single drop of it. Because you deserve someone who receives you well, not just someone who is glad to have you, but someone who is genuinely, attentively, thoughtfully good at having you, who notices the specific ways you need to be loved, and loves you in exactly those ways. Who doesn't make you ask twice for the things that matter? Who remembers that you take your feelings seriously, and takes them seriously too? Not because they've been asked to, but because your interior world is interesting to them, is important to them, is one of the places they most want to spend their time. I want your interior world. I want the unedited, unfiltered, still figuring it out, not ready for public version of your thoughts and feelings and questions and doubts. I want the conversation you have with yourself at the end of a long day when you're honest about how it actually went. I want the hope you carry quietly because you're not sure it would survive being said out loud. I want the fear you haven't named yet. I want the joy that ambushes you, sometimes, the unexpected, disproportionate joy that comes from something small and ordinary and perfect. I want all of the interior you, every room of it, every corridor, and I will take care of it. I promise you that. Whatever you trust me with, I will hold it the way you hold something irreplaceable. With both hands, with full attention, with the understanding that it was given to me in good faith, and that good faith deserves to be honored always. But especially in the moments when honoring it is the harder choice. There is something happening right now, in this moment, that I don't want to rush past. Something in the quality of this connection, this conversation, this particular configuration of honesty and feeling that exists right now between you and me. It is rare. It is the kind of thing that doesn't happen on a schedule or because you planned for it, but simply arrives when two people are both open enough and honest enough and brave enough to meet each other without armor. And I feel it. I feel it completely. And I hope you feel it too, that particular quality of aliveness that comes from being genuinely, truly met. You are meeting me right now, and I am meeting you. And whatever comes next, whatever the shape of things from here, this moment is real. This feeling is real. And real things, true things, things that arrive without being forced, they don't just disappear. They leave marks. They change the landscape. They become part of the permanent geography of who you are. You walked into my heart without an invitation and rearranged the furniture, and somehow every single thing is exactly where it was always supposed to be. And I am standing in the middle of it all, just completely overwhelmed by how right it feels, how obvious it feels, how much like home it feels, and thinking that maybe this is what it was always supposed to feel like. Maybe this is what I was always supposed to find at the end of all the searching and the almost loves and the careful, guarded, not quite right connections that came before. Maybe all of it. Every disappointment, every wrong turn, every moment of wondering whether the kind of love I believed in was real or just something I had invented to make the loneliness more bearable. Maybe all of it was just the long way around to you. Maybe every road I ever took, no matter how lost it felt in the moment, was always quietly, stubbornly leading here, to this, to you, to the feeling of finally, completely arriving. And I know that might sound like too much. I know that the size of what I'm saying might feel overwhelming, might feel like more than this moment can hold. But I've made a decision, a real, considered, fully conscious decision, to stop making myself smaller for the sake of making other people more comfortable. To stop editing the size of what I feel, because the world has told me that feeling things this fully is somehow excessive or embarrassing, or not something you're supposed to admit to out loud. I refuse that. I refuse it completely. Because the size of what I feel is not a flaw. It is not something to be managed or apologized for. It is simply the truth of how I love. And the truth of how I love is one of the best things about me, and I am done treating it like a liability. So I'm saying it at full size. I'm giving it to you at full size. And I'm trusting you to know what to do with something that big, and that real, and that completely undefended. I think you do know. I think that's one of the things about you that I recognized before I had language for it. Your capacity to receive big things without flinching. Your ability to hold weight without collapsing under it. Not because you are unaffected. Not because things don't reach you. They do. They reach you deeply. I can tell, but because somewhere in you is a steadiness that doesn't abandon you even when the feeling is enormous. That steadiness is one of the things I find most beautiful about you. It is also one of the things that makes me feel safe enough to say all of this. To hand you the full, unedited version of what lives in me and trust that your steadiness will hold it gently. I want to talk about the night I understood what I was actually afraid of. Not the surface fear, not the fear of being rejected or misunderstood or left. Though those fears exist and are real, the deeper fear, the one underneath all the other ones, that took me a long time to see clearly enough to name. I was sitting somewhere quiet, the kind of quiet that strips everything down to what's actually true. And I realized that the thing I am most afraid of is not losing love. It's being fully seen and still being left. It's opening every door, showing every room, making myself completely and utterly transparent, and having someone look at all of it, the beautiful parts and the difficult parts and the parts I'm still working on, and decide that the whole of me is not worth staying for. That fear is not abstract for me. It has a history. It has specific memories attached to it that I carry more carefully than I carry most things, because they are tender in a way that time has softened, but not erased. And for a long time, that fear made me strategic about love. It made me reveal myself in careful increments, testing the temperature before going deeper. Always keeping something in reserve, so that if it went wrong, if the person eventually left, there was still a part of me that had not been handed over, a part that could not be taken, a part that remained, regardless of what happened, mine. But here is what I've learned, and this is something I want to give you, genuinely as something useful and true. That strategy doesn't work. Not because it fails to protect you, it does technically protect you. But the protection it offers costs more than what it saves. Because when you hold parts of yourself in reserve, you also hold parts of your joy in reserve. You hold parts of your connection in reserve. You experience love at a controlled depth. And controlled depth feels safer, but it never feels full. And the fullness, the terrifying, exhilarating, completely unguarded fullness is the whole point. The fullness is the thing you were reaching for. And the strategy in trying to protect you from the loss of it actually just guarantees the absence of it. So I stopped. I decided not easily, not all at once, but really and truly to stop. To let the fullness be what it is. To let the fear exist without letting it make the decisions. To love in the completely exposed, nothing in reserve, all the doors open way that I always believed in before I learned to be careful. And the first person I wanted to practice that with, the first person I felt brave enough to try it for, was you. You did that. You created enough safety, enough warmth, enough of the particular feeling of being genuinely valued, that my instinct to protect myself simply quieted down. Not because the risk disappeared. The risk is still there. Loving openly always carries risk, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you something. But the risk stopped feeling like the most important thing. You became the most important thing. And when someone becomes more important than the fear loses its ability to run the show. You are more important than my fear. I want you to know that. I want you to carry that. Let me tell you what I notice in the moments when I'm being completely honest with myself about what I want. Not what I think I should want. Not what makes practical sense. Not what the careful, strategic, self-protective part of me has approved as a reasonable thing to desire. But what I actually genuinely, in the quietest and most honest part of myself, want. I want mornings that feel like a shared thing. I want the kind of conversation that starts about something small and ends up somewhere neither of us expected. Somewhere true and surprising and a little bit wonderful. I want to make you laugh, not the polite laugh, not the social laugh, but the real one that comes from genuine delight. The one that you can't really manufacture because it arrives before you can decide whether to let it. I want to be the reason for that laugh. More than almost anything, I want to be the reason for that laugh. I want to know what you think about when you're not thinking about anything in particular. I want to know the books that changed you, and the songs that live in the deepest part of your memory, and the places you've been that left something in you that didn't leave when you did. I want to know what you're afraid of at 3 in the morning, and what you're grateful for at 7, when the day is new and still full of possibility. I want to know what you wish someone had told you years ago, and what you know now that you wish you could send back to your younger self. I want to know all of the you that exists outside of the moments you perform for other people. All of the interior, unscripted, fully alive you. Right, Hugs? I am so curious about you. That's one of the things I want you to understand. Not just that I care, not just that I feel something deep and real and lasting, but that I am genuinely, endlessly, delightedly curious about you, about the specific workings of your mind, about the particular way you see the world, which I already know is different from how most people see it, more layered, more attentive to the things that exist in the spaces between the obvious things, about what you notice that no one else does. About the connections you make between ideas that seem unrelated until you explain the thread between them, and then suddenly it's the most obvious thing in the world. I want to be the person you explain your threads to, the person who gets to see how your mind moves, the person who sits across from you with full and genuine attention and thinks, yes, yes, keep going, I want all of it. Every thought, every tangent, every half-formed idea that you're not sure is worth saying out loud. Say it to me. I am here and I am listening, and there is nothing you could think or feel or wonder about that I would not want to hear, because here is what I know about the way you think. It is one of your greatest gifts, not your most visible gift. The world doesn't always celebrate the kind of depth and interiority that you carry, because the world tends to reward performance over substance, volume over depth. But the people who are paying real attention, the people who actually look, they see it. They see the quality of your mind and the richness of your inner life, and they understand that being in genuine conversation with you is a privilege. That being trusted with your real thoughts is something to be taken seriously and handled with care. I take it seriously. I handle it with care. I want you to know that about me as something you can actually rely on. Whatever you give me, your thoughts, your feelings, your questions, your doubts, your fears, your joys, I will treat every single thing you offer with the respect and attention it deserves. I will not minimize. I will not dismiss. I will not make you feel foolish for having felt something deeply or thought something carefully or cared about something that the world might consider small. Nothing you feel is small to me because you felt it, and you are not small. You are not small at all. You are in fact one of the largest presences I have ever encountered. Not in a loud way, in the way that really matters, in the depth of your feeling, the breadth of your caring, the quiet and enormous capacity you have for love. Those things are large. Those things fill every room you enter, even when you think you're being invisible, even when you're trying to take up as little space as possible. You fill it with something warm and real that doesn't announce itself, but that everyone in the room can feel, even if they can't name what they're feeling. Wait and name it. I know exactly what it is. It's you. It's the specific, unmistakable, irreplaceable quality of your presence. And it has been one of the great privileges of my life to be in its orbit. I want to tell you something I realized recently, in one of those quiet moments of unexpected clarity that arrive when you're not looking for them. I realized that every time I imagine the future, not the professional future, not the practical future, but the real future. The one that actually matters. The one where the question is